Hello and welcome to episode, I can't remember, about 17, 18, something like that, of the Bad Psychics podcast. I'm not re-recording that, I refuse. We are here to discuss the 25-26 English football season. This could be a long one, so buckle up. As always, I am joined by a trio of idiots. First up, I predict she's most likely to have asked Joey Barton for advice, given she's a woman and can't possibly know about men's football. It's Eloise. Hey, how are you, Eloise?
No.
Can I get an extra point for predicting this before the episode started?
Nope.
It's low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit.
It is low-hanging fruit. I predict he's most likely to have looked at the predictions and gone, what's a relegation? It's Jeter. How you doing? How you doing, Jeter?
Easy American joke.
Yeah, absolutely. Kept them pretty simple today, can't lie. Finally, I predict that he's most likely to have counted the number of relegations from the Conference North-South on one hand. It's Michael.
Yes. That's the level of creativity I want with those sorts of jokes. See, that's what you're here for. You don't do them lazy. You do those jokes properly. I appreciate it.
Exactly. So, how are we all? Everybody happy apart from Eloise just saying no?
Yeah, all good here.
Okay, excellent. I mean, before we start, I'm gonna test the temperature in the room for each of you. Same question for each of you. How excited are we for this season? Because for me, I'm quite excited because of what this season means to my club. But there are definitely some teams out there for whom it feels like they only just went on holiday. There's other people who think there's been so much football that it's just So I'm like, where's your football fever on the dial, Eloise?
Pretty meh. I think it's a lot more exciting than it has been. Also, context, Bristol Rovers. There we go. If you didn't get the Joey Barton joke, the shit Joey Barton joke. Yeah. So we obviously got relegated last season. It was a pretty poor season, but we've got Darragh Clarke back, who was who got us back-to-back promotions 10 years ago. So there is hope. You know, it's always risky bringing someone back who had success in the past, but he's gone on to do better things throughout the AFL. So we've got him back. We brought a bunch of players in. A couple of the players that Darragh had 10 years ago. So yeah, it's kind of slightly optimistic is probably the answer.
Okay. Jeter, how are you feeling?
Very excited to get back to it. I, like many other Americans, despite the fact that we hosted the Club World Cup, have not watched any soccer this season, or any soccer this summer. So I'm excited to get back into the English football season, because the MLS is stupid.
I mean, I also follow the MLS, but fair. And Michael.
Yeah, I mean, obviously being a Norwich fan, half our team's changed, got a new manager. It feels like I should be excited, and I am. But I also know that in a month's time, I probably won't be because it'll have all gone horribly wrong. That's what being a Norwich supporter is. It'll be great for a couple of weeks and horrendous for a couple of weeks, and then great again. You never know. So I try to keep myself a bit level-headed, knowing that it could go either way almost instantaneously. Never get too high, never get too low, because whichever one it is, it's going to be the opposite soon enough.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's switch to our spreadsheet in a whole. So there are a lot of predictions today. a lot. Like, I have even considered there is a chance I might cut this episode in half and do it in like release it into 2 portions. I don't know. I'm hoping we can go at a reasonable rate, but we'll do our best. We are predicting promotions and relegations all the way down to tier 6. Well, the relegations will be going to tier 7, but you know what I mean. And I will say, if that's boring to any of you, blame Eloise. The rest of us were quite happy with doing down to tier 4.
I didn't say do it. I just said could. And I expecting to be like, no, we'll do it with League 2, and it's like I didn't expect you to listen to me. So there's that.
Well,
I didn't.
Yeah, I don't want to be accused of being sexist. Heaven forbid.
You were, you'd be fit to be the Rovers manager.
Right. I mean, let's. Do you know what? Actually, even though that's not the way the spreadsheet goes, I'm gonna break with tradition and go in a weird order, just because I feel like it. We're gonna sort of work up the page. So, we'll start with the cups in order of relevance, and we'll go up the leagues.
What is this?
I know. I'm a rebel who can't be tamed. So we're starting. What a way to break this episode in. We're starting with our picks for the winner of the Virtu Trophy. So let's have a look. Okay, right. I've gone for Reading because I looked at the groups and Reading don't have another League One team there, and it looked like an easy group, and I figured a good place to start. It was with a team that you definitely think will make it out of their group, and after that, who cares? Eloise, Stockport.
Yeah, they're a bit good, so I think Stockport will do a win. It's not really much to go off with the
That's
bloody
fine.
EFL trophy. Yeah, Stockport are very much a team that play football. So
Yeah, I
they're
mean-
very much. I've seen one of the answers and it pisses me off. So
I feel like we can mostly keep it to a sentence or two on most of these early ones, so it's fine. I mean, let's go to Michael with Bolton.
Yeah, I had to double check which one the Virtu Trophy was, because to me it's still the JPT, and I've never kept track of what its name has changed to beyond that. So it's forever the JPT to me. Yeah, I just looked at who's good in League One, or good-ish in League One, saw Bolton, went, I like Bolton, shout out Mal. So, Bolton wins.
Fair. I mean, interesting that you think as I either go for what it was when I first started paying attention to it, which was I think the auto windscreen shield, which I thought calling it a windscreen shield always made me chuckle. Excellent marketing. Or I thought everybody called it the Pizza Cup, but because of Papa John's.
yeah, it's Papa John's. It was Papa John's a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, Jeter, you've clearly upset Eloise. You've gone for the Man City under-21 team.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun for an under-21s team to win it. I don't know. I kind of looked at it and I went, I think I'd be amused if an under-21s team won. Let me pick who I think is the best youth academy.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think we have different definitions of the word fun, really, but...
Yeah.
I'm treating this trophy with the contempt it deserves.
Okay. So next we go to the Carabao Cup, and... we've got four different answers again. Oh, Eloise has vanished. I've gone for Liverpool because Liverpool win Carabao Cup lot. That seems to be pretty consistent. Michael, you've gone for Bournemouth. Why?
Honestly, I just kind of wanted to go with a different team winning it. It felt boring just going with all the big teams. I thought, who's a team that is sold enough in the Premier League that they could go for a proper decent cup run, that that it would mean something for them to go on that big cup run, like how Newcastle did, finally winning a trophy with the Carabao Cup. And Bournemouth are the one who, to my knowledge, have basically never won anything, and they're in a position where they can, they're not going to be in danger of getting relegated. They can afford to try and put a bit of emphasis on a cup run. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of I just thought Bournemouth are ones who might take it a bit more seriously than some of the other Premier League teams. Okay. It might mean a bit more to them.
GT, you've gone West Ham?
Yeah, similar logic. I just also kind of, I looked at it and I went, this kind of feels like the sort of competition that West Ham would win and their fans would celebrate it and everyone would laugh at them for celebrating it.
Fair enough. And Eloise, you've gone for Newcastle.
Yeah, I was thinking they could just retain. I don't know. Yeah, they could retain, and I don't know. One of the big clubs doesn't win, so that's happy days, I suppose.
Fair enough. Let's go for the FA Cup winners. Right. Okay. We've got a pair of Chelsea's and a pair of Liverpool's. So. My logic is, I often think the winner of the FA Cup is the best Premier League team who's not genuinely in the title fight. And for me, I think that's likely to be Chelsea. Eloise, you've also gone for Chelsea. Any particular reason?
Yeah, you're probably spot on. Just I expect they'll probably be out the league at this point, take the competitions more seriously, and they have a squad that they'll be able to run deep in. So yeah, they'll most likely be fine here.
Okay. Gita, you've said Liverpool.
Yeah, it was one of those of just kind of, I don't know, without getting too much into my predictions on the Prem, felt like this was the sort of competition that they might be able to win. Yeah, I don't know, just kind of a feeling.
Okay. Michael, anything to add?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of what Eloise said about Chelsea. I think is true for Liverpool with the squad depth. Liverpool have got a lot of quality players now, where the early rounds they can put out very changed teams, still get through, but by the later rounds they've got that bit more quality than someone like Chelsea, where if it was, say, like a Liverpool-Chelsea final in a one-off game, you're back in Liverpool probably to win that. So yeah, I think it's just a combination of depth and just outright quality in the final games.
Okay. Right, so let's get on to the Conference North-South. This is going to look ridiculous on the screen, but you'll see why when we do it, revealing both at the same time. And yes, that is a madness. Let's start with relegation and see if I can remember all of mine. I believe that is Curzon Ashton, Merthyr Tydfil, Peterborough Sport, Bedford, Totton, Tunbridge, Horsham and Hemel Hempstead. I'm not going to justify any of those because it took me long enough to read out the teams. Eloise, you've gone for Worcester, Scarborough. No.
Yeah. What? I can read mine.
Worthing.
It's Worksop.
Oh.
Scarborough. Marine. Radcliffe. And in the south, it's Enfield, Totton. What's the
Horsham.
Horsham. I read that as a B. It's a H. Horsham, and then that's
Chippenham.
That is a Chippenham.
The Chippenham, but sure. Okay. I will say we'll go through just trying to work out what teams these are, and then if any of you for some reason has something you strongly want to add, we'll do that. So Gita did Worksop.
I can tell you, Worksop, Marine,
Tydfil, Scarborough, Enfield, Totton, Horsham, Chippenham.
Yeah.
Okay, and Michael did Marine.
South Shields.
Yes, South Shields. Worksop, Merthyr Tydfil, Bath, Chester.
What?
Chelmsford.
Enfield, Tottenham.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they'd strongly like to add? Because
I do.
I don't care.
Eloise and I have both predicted a team to go up that Michael's predicted to go down in the National League South.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it's admittedly mostly vibes. Bath was not vibes. Bath was entirely because of Eloise. I wanted the reaction.
You got the reaction. That is also entirely why I've got Chippenham to go down. Because big rivals are Bath, so that's why Chippenham are relegated for me.
Okay, excellent.
I also find it interesting that Eloise and I have gone with the exact same bottom four in order for the National League South.
Yeah, that's especially shocking given the fact that one of Eloise's was just because she hates them. That said,
They're also down there in the odds.
I'm acting like I'm above being really petty and annoying here. I may have predicted the Tunbridge Angels to go down just because somebody I used to know supports them and I don't like them anymore. So...
this has gone well for us.
Yeah, I do genuinely believe there's a chance they go down. They're not very good, but you know.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, let's go with promotions and relegations now. Now, mine, I think I've expressed in a particularly weird way because I'm pretty sure I've gone north, south, south, north for no apparent reason, but I think that means that I've gone for Fylde to go up, with Chester going up through the playoffs, and then I've gone for Maidstone to go up, with Dagenham and Redbridge to go up via the playoffs. Eloise, you've gone for Chester to go up, Macclesfield through the playoffs, Dagenham and Redbridge to go up, Bath through the playoffs. Anything to add to that?
Yep. Well, it was I generally don't think Bath's going to go up. It was just so I could mention Bath. But Dagenham and Redbridge too big to be tier 6. Same with Macclesfield. They're obviously on the rise. Chester kind of year clubs that sort of make sense. So that's my thinking of all those.
Perfect. Jeter, you have gone for Kidderminster and King's Lynn to go up. Kidderminster to go up, King's Lynn through the playoffs, Dagenham and Redbridge to go up, Chelmsford through the playoffs. Anything to add?
Yeah, two of these picks are completely biased. King's Lynn, for obvious reasons, I have a Norwich kit on. Chelmsford, because I did a save with them in FM, and yeah.
Good. That's the level of content you are getting from the Bad Psychics podcast. And then... I've just realised Michael's done exactly the same thing, for God's sake. Michael's gone King's Lynn to go up, Leamington to go through the playoffs, Hampton and Richmond to go up, and Horsham, who the rest of us have getting relegated through the playoffs. Anything to add?
I mean, yeah, King's Lynn, purely geographical, but actually, to be fair, King's Lynn are actually decent at that level. They are actually one of the better teams. Leamington, because I lived there for a bit, so that's the entire reason behind that one. Hampton and Richmond, I have been to a Hampton and Richmond game with two other people right next to me, so that's why them. And Horsham, because they wear the right colours. That's entirely the reason behind Horsham. They wear yellow and green. That'll do.
I really hate you people sometimes. Okay.
Could have skipped this whole section if only you'd had the balls to do it.
I mean, there's jokes there, but I'm not making them. Right. Let's move on to the regular conference. Slightly less of a mess on the screen. Right. We'll start with relegation. So, I mean, let's start with Eloise's. Eloise, you've only put 3 to teams. I'm assuming that the 4th, if Morecambe find a buyer, will still be Morecambe.
Yes, basically.
Okay. So, I mean, we've all put Morecambe as the bottom team. I think, yeah, we'll work out how to score that based on what happened. But we'll take it as
no points.
Yes. But if they do get a buyer, but then go down, where do you want Morecambe in bottom place?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
I'll put Morecambe. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, between the rest of us, all of us seem to be thinking Truro go down. 3 of us think Braintree. 2 of us think Brackley, although mine is very much pessimism because I used to play cricket for Brackley, so I have a soft spot for them. But there's also I was going to say there's 3 Morecambes. There's obviously 4 Morecambes. I'm an idiot. We just discussed this. But let's look at like the outside picks, which I guess you've each got one of them. Michael, you've gone for Solihull Moors. Why are they going down?
Far too close to Birmingham. The problem.
I did wonder if that was...
Good football does not come from that part of the country.
I mean, we did only manage to beat them 1-0 in a friendly. So you might be right. Okay. Jeter, you've said Boston are going down.
Yeah, I saw a real opportunity here. York's going up and Boston's going down because fuck Boston, New York's better.
Oh, God. I hate it here.
New York? It's just York.
Yeah, but it was close enough. Both York, not to get into that one right now, are probably good enough to go up, as evidenced by almost all of us picking it. And Boston, like, I looked at the odds, they were low enough down, and I went, yeah, I have a grudge against all places named Boston. They can get relegated.
Fair. And then, Eloise, you've gone for Boreham Wood. I will say that if there were 4 relegation spots and Morecambe weren't there, Boreham Wood would have been my next pick. So you can speak for both of us about why Boreham Wood might be going down.
I just don't really have much hope for them because I think they got promoted. So yeah, I mean I think I'm not a big fan of Boreham Wood to begin with. So yeah, the premise of them going down is I don't care. So yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Right, let's look at promotions. We've got 3 Yorks, 2 Carlisles. I mean, Eloise and Jesus are identical. So, I mean, Eloise, you talk to me about York.
York, they're a club that probably is too big to be at the level they've been at for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good last year, unlucky not to go up. So they just need to push on and do the same as they did, and they'll be completely fine.
Fair enough. Jeter, you talk about Carlisle?
Yeah, it's another one. Unless I'm mistaken, I believe they just came down.
Yep.
But they're a pretty large club, and obviously you'd have to think it's not easy to go up, especially given, as Eloise just talked about, the strength of York, scoring 91 points last season, 93, something like that.
Something like that.
it's not easy to go up into League Two, but you'd probably pick one of the clubs that just got relegated to do well, and they are a pretty large club, all things considered. So I definitely have a feeling that if they're not there, they'll be there or thereabouts.
Okay. Michael, talk to me about Southend.
Yeah, I mean, Southend's obviously a club that's been through a hell of a lot of crap over recent years that feels like they're sort of starting to basically get their shit together now. They got new ownership about a year ago now. They got that. So they got a season under their belts with that. And yeah, it just feels like it's Southend are another club. Like we said, there's quite a few clubs you get down at this level. You feel like they're too big to be at that level. And Southend's one who were down there because of all the crap they're in. Now they're starting to get out of it. They just feel like a team that is, they've got that momentum of getting themselves back up again. They've got that, the history of being at higher levels than this. It just feels like it's always hard to choose who's going to go up from the National League just because it's, there's not enough promotion places for the quality of the league. But yeah, it just feels like if Southend, they got into the playoffs last year, if they can get themselves properly close to, get themselves to the playoff final or something like that, it's going to mean a hell of a lot to them and their fans after everything they've been through. And it's just a little bit of hope that they get something nice for once.
Fair. Meanwhile, I've gone for Rochdale and Forest Green. Rochdale, I think, kind of another one of the sides that I think they should be in the Football League. They have a long history being part of the Football League. And then Forest Green is a bit more of a punt. Because So, obviously, they've poached Robbie Savage as their manager from Macclesfield. He was doing a very good job at Macclesfield. I don't know if that's because anyone could have done a very good job at Macclesfield, though, or if he's a good manager. There are contrasting views on this, but I thought I wasn't sure enough about any of the teams, and so I thought I'll take a punt on Forest Green, and we'll see what happens. It's not one of my more confident predictions, I will say that. Right, next we move on to the ups and downs in League 2. So let's have a look at what we've got here. Obviously only 2 teams going down from League 2 into the conference. We've got, what have we got? We've got 2 Accringtons, we've got 3 Harrogates, and then we've got some assorted oddities. Eloise, you've said Accrington will go down. Any particular reason?
Downwards spiral, I suppose. They just don't seem. I think their transfer window didn't seem very convincing, and I have a feeling that they'll slip down and find themselves in a relegation battle they can't win.
Okay, Jeter, Harrogate, why are they winning the league for you?
They're not. I have them going down.
What did I say?
Winning the league.
Oh.
That maybe they'll win the conference next season.
They won't.
I will say, I'm operating on
winning League 2 this year.
I'm operating on very little sleep, I apologise. Jeter, why are Harrogate going down this season?
They were... So, it was around this point that I could actually find reasonable betting odds, and they were among some of the ones that were favorited. Really, it was just kind of a choice if I took some of the teams that I thought would do the worst. But I refused to say that Accrington were going down because I like Accrington, and I want to root for them to stay up. So that was kind of how I landed on Harrogate and Newport.
Okay, I covered Newport there as well. Perfect. Then, Michael, I'm assuming you've put MK just to irritate me.
Not just to irritate you. Like 70% to irritate you. 20% because the place's main identity is fucking Roundabouts. And like the other 10% is didn't do particularly well last year. I just looked at who was, down towards the bottom end of League Two last year, saw MK Dons and went, "Yep, they can go."
I mean, no, it's not primarily Roundabouts. That's other people's identity. Our main identity is Concrete Cows. Get it right. And
I'd just like to add, on the topic of MK, because I don't see anyone having put them up. All of the bookies have them comfortably as the favorites to. Eloise does. Sorry, I missed it. I tried to scan it and I missed.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to steal your flow. My bad. We can cut that.
Yes.
I went for Barrow, so I'll be honest, okay? I am only really hosting this because somebody needs to. I struggle to care about most of these levels of football. However, like, I looked at the League 2 list and I went, who did I forget were even like a League 2 club? Who do I still think is rotting somewhere in the conference? And I saw Barrow, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, genuinely had no concept whatsoever of them being a League 2 club. So let's move on to promotions. There were 4 of these. I mean, everybody's gone for Bristol Rovers. We're going to go... Everybody else will get a chance to discuss Bristol Rovers later on for reasons you'll see. Eloise, I'll let you... This is your Bristol Rovers moment. Say what you want to about them.
So, I think almost everyone has Rovers doing better than I have, because almost always at a League 2 level, Rovers, if they are to get promoted, we will finish 3rd. It's not we're not going to win the league. We're going to somehow, get a last minute winner on the final day of the season and go up in 3rd. That's always what happens, and I have a feeling that we'll do that this season. I feel like this is the promotion season. We just got relegated. We can bounce back immediately. We got our old manager. We got a bunch of good players. There's even a player that we'll be talking about later. And yeah, this is the season where we can do things. It's just we never do anything but finish 3rd in League 2.
Fair enough. I mean, we've got a couple of Colchesters. Michael, any particular reason for Colchester?
Not massively. It's one where I look through their squad and it's like I recognise quite a few of the names in that squad. It's players who have played at high levels before. They've got, unless I'm getting it mixed up, they've still got the Cowleys in charge who are good managers at that level. It's just there's a lot of things that I recognise within Colchester, players I recognise who can play at a decent level, good managers. It just feels like it's a team that has the potential to do better than they have done in recent years.
Okay. I see a couple of Chesterfields. I mean, GT, you've got Chesterfield winning the league. Any particular reason?
Yeah, they were really solid last season. They made it to the playoff semifinals. They're just, League 2 is obviously a little bit tough to predict. And especially considering I, with a vendetta, avoided a certain club going up that I'm sure Eloise will have a chance to talk about in a minute. I just kind of had to pick someone to win the league, and it couldn't be them, so it had to be Chesterfield, because I wasn't fully confident in backing Rovers to go right back up as champions.
Fair. Right, let's cover the oddities. I mean, I've gone... Jesus also said Salford, but I'll cover Salford. I just think they... Whether you like them or not, they are spending comparatively a fair bit of money at some point that's going to pay off for them. I don't see them winning the league. Crawley I've gone for. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Just looked at it, some kind of gut feeling. Jeter's probably able to tell me that Crawley are like 3rd favourites to go down or something, but...
No.
Okay.
They went down last season. They're predicted to definitely be in the mix.
Okay. And then I went for Fleetwood to go up through the playoffs. I remember that there was some logic to this. I don't remember what that logic was, but at the time, that was a reasoned argument. But yeah. Eloise, you have said that MK Dons will win the league. Why?
I mean, I don't take pleasure in saying that because I really don't like the club. You know, I'll just premise that to start off with. Though they are spending a lot of money for League Two, bringing in some, you know, they're League Two. They're bringing in like lower end Championship, like if not like upper end League One players. You know, the 30-year-old Callum Patterson, Gethin Jones from Bolton, Nathaniel Mendes-Lang. Like they got Aaron Collins, who was at Rovers a few seasons ago, who they got from Bolton, who's I feel like he's Championship level, not League Two. So there is a lot of good players they're bringing in, and they're probably not finished. And yeah, obviously the odds have them favourite. I mean, I don't enjoy the fact that they're probably gonna do well. It's just you cannot ignore the fact that they are spending on these good Football League players that are proven.
Didn't Gethin Jones represent Blue Peter? Like,
it's a very common name. But this was Australia.
Gethin Jones is a very common name. I've never met a Gethin in my life.
Obviously not been to Wales.
Well, I have been to Wales, but we don't talk about that.
I know the story, but so you won't want to share it.
Yeah. Right. Michael, you are the only person that have said Gillingham are going up. Any reason behind that?
Yeah, I mean, from my knowledge, Gillingham is one where I could be making this up. This is me doing the the League Two and lower ones just before we started this. But I think Gillingham are ones who've had, within the last couple of years, have had new owners come in who keep promising to chuck more money at it. And it just feels like that's a club that has the potential where if they chuck the money at the right players, they could very easily, go flying up the league in the way that MK Dons probably are going to. But, I don't hate Gillingham as much as I obviously dislike MK Dons, and I don't get the winding up Z points that are the only points I care about by backing MK Dons. So I back Gillingham instead.
The difference between me and other hosts is I don't care if you try and wind me up, because you winding me up means you losing at this. I'm competitive enough that that's the bit I care about, not you winding me up. Okay, let's move on to League One. This is kind of the point at which I actually start massively paying attention to what's going on in football. We'll reveal those. Okay, starting with the relegations. Every single person has gone for Northampton. I mean, GT, you can cover. Why are Northampton going down?
They're just not really... Like, there's a reason why they're favoured to go down. They barely escaped relegation last season. They are not... Like, they're just one of those clubs that, like, I looked at the table and I went, yeah, they're going to be there or thereabouts. I have no confidence picking them to stay up. So I just kind of, it was one of those of, like, I looked at it and I went, yeah, they're probably going down.
Fair enough. We've got 3 Port Vales. Michael, why Port Vale?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a similar one to Northampton, where it's just looking at teams who, I'm trying to remember if I'm mixing up my teams now. No, it's Port Vale one who's just come up, haven't they? That's the one I'm thinking of now. I'm mixing it up with Burton here, yeah. So Port Vale's one that's just come up, and it's always a bit of a, it's not like the same as National League to League Two is not really that much of a jump. League Two to League One is that first sort of big jump that you get as when you're going up the football leagues, and you're always going to get someone who's come up, probably struggling and going back down again. And Port Vale is just generally, over a quick glance, look like the weakest of them. It just feels like there's a bit more to teams like Doncaster and Wimbledon have been, I'm always going to want to back Wimbledon. So yeah, it was sort of a looking at who came up, who do I think is most likely to struggle. And I just sort of landed on Port Vale.
Fair enough. I'll cover Mansfield quickly because I do have Mansfield going down, as do Jeter and Michael. That makes me kind of sad. Have a soft spot for Mansfield. Used to live there, but it does feel very much for me like they are one of those teams that's probably a bit too good for League Two, but not good enough for League One, and tend to just be in the lower half of one or the top half of the other. I don't think this is the year. We've got a couple of AFC Wimbledons. Eloise, I'll let you cover them.
Yeah, it's another situation where it's the promoted team, which I don't feel has done enough to justify staying up, and got rid of a bunch of players that would have been in and around their team the season previous. So I don't see them staying in League One for that long.
Fair enough. Michael, you briefly touched on Burton before. I'll let you finish the job. Yeah,
basically they one who, barely stayed up last year, like they stayed up by a point last year. It's Burton, their stadium's next to a roundabout. How well are they ever going to actually do? Come on. Like I said, it's mostly just the fact that they barely stayed up last year, and most of the teams, like I said, it's a bit of a jump from League Two to League One, but it's not that big of a jump. So the teams coming up are always going to be, at least a big chunk of those four are going to be competitive. If you're down at the bottom of League Two, you've really got to, the next season you've got to actively do something to try and improve to get yourself away from that, because otherwise you will just get swallowed up by the teams coming up from below.
I feel like Michael will be receiving letters from the National Roundabout Committee.
I'm really hanging on roundabouts today.
Yeah. And then I think one of the few answers that nobody else has said. Oh no, Eloise has one as well, so we'll cover both of them. We'll start with GT. You've said Bradford are going down.
Yeah, I don't know. They were one of the teams to come up automatically. Or I don't know whether they were playoffs. They were one of the teams that were promoted. And I don't know. I didn't think that all of the promoted teams would stay up. I guess I've also picked Port Vale, but it was just one of those of like, I looked at it and I kind of went, they're a recently promoted team. They're probably one who might not be able to make it stick. It's fairly easy to pick clubs to yo-yo back and forth. And while I don't think that the gap in quality between League One and League Two is as stark as the jump between the other tiers above it, I do think that there's a reason why yo-yo clubs exist.
Absolutely. And then Eloise, quickly on Exeter, please.
They're very much a club that's been stagnant for a few years, not really being able to do much, be like a lower League One team, and they've done a big change in players, and I just don't see much in confidence of them staying up. It's kind of been a long time coming. They possibly would dip into League Two, so yeah.
Fair enough. Then we go to promotions. Quite a lot of variety in this, I will say. We don't seem to be particularly in agreement. I'll
point out something here quickly, Z. That should be Stockport for me, not Stoke. I put STO and you've corrected it to Stoke, who aren't in League One.
Nope.
Alright, my bad. I mean, I can't do a cut here because we'd have to do the whole relegation bit again. So yeah,
it's fine. I just get to point out your mistake actually in the video.
Could have done it earlier, you tosser.
You were halfway through talking about things. Actually, I didn't clock it till we were basically done with talking about relegation. I'm like, why would I have said Stoke? They're not in the league. They're not in League One.
Well, I'll be honest.
That was Stockport.
I'll be honest. I did look at it and go, "Is that right?" Okay, so we got three people saying Stockport. we've got a couple of Huddersfields. Like I can't see anything else that we're in agreement on. So I'm gonna run through my three. I've gone for Cardiff to win the league. I just, a lot of it depends on how they are like treated by their management into this season. For me, Cardiff is too big a club to be in League One. They deserve to be in the top two tiers if you were to look at it by sort of fan base and stuff like that. And I just feel like they could go up. Huddersfield, they tend to like bounce between the two divisions. They didn't go up last season, which means they're probably due a good season this time. And then Reading, I think, was slightly frustrated by Ruben Sellers leaving them to Sheffield United last season. Took Noel Hunt a little bit of time to steady the ship, but by the end of the season, I think they were starting to do that. I think if they make a good start, a full season with him, could see them go up again, but probably through the playoffs. I mean, Eloise, your trio are Stockport, Huddersfield, and Bolton. Walk me through them.
Stockport were really unfortunate last year, like considering they were really good, but they had to come up against two very, very rich clubs in Wrexham and Birmingham, so they didn't get, and then they messed up the playoffs, so they didn't get their chance to get promoted. So they feel like a nail on to win. Huddersfield have also, I'm pretty sure if I remember, they spent a good amount of money and have some decent players that could make a dent and definitely challenge for the title, as well as, I mean, Bolton. Bolton have like been around the playoffs for years now, and you know, I just hope that this doesn't jinx Bolton for a poor Malteser Falcon, and yeah, ruin Bolton's chances another year.
Fair. GT, your trio is Stockport, Wycombe, Leyton Orient.
Yeah, Eloise has already kind of covered Stockport, so I'll leave it there. One of my main considerations was that I thought that the three clubs coming down would not go back up. Obviously, none of us mentioned Plymouth, but I'm not confident that Cardiff or Luton will go up. I know that each of you have mentioned it, and Eloise seems to agree with me. I don't think any of the three of them will come back up. I watched a lot of the Championship last season, and all of them were dreadful, and I don't trust any of them to turn it around that quickly. With Wycombe, it was just kind of one of those of they had a good season last year. They were in the playoffs, but obviously League One, as Eloise mentioned last year, was very chaotic and really top heavy.
Yeah.
Because of the money that Wrexham and Birmingham had spent. And I think Wycombe in a weaker league might have a chance. And then, to be honest, I think that it's going to be a bit of a scramble. I don't think that there's clear favorites, so I just kind of backed Orient because I think that they could be one of those pesky teams that like just sneaks into the playoffs and like goes on a run right at the end of the season. And I mean, you know, it's you just need to finish top six, and they're kind of tipped to be there or thereabouts. And if you kind of just get lucky, that, you know, who knows who's going to win in the playoffs. So I thought it'd be an interesting pick.
Okay, and Michael, you have gone Luton, Stockport, Barnsley.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone Luton. I think it's a bit of a against, you know, what the last two have said, where a lot of times you will get from the Championship to League one of those teams that goes down does usually do pretty well. And it just feels like, despite it feel like they're maybe on a downward trajectory, Luton have still got, you know, it's not like completely alien for them to be down in League One. You know, they've still got at least a decent number of the players that they've had over the last few years who have done well at higher levels. It just feels like Luton are the best place of those three to try and come straight back up. And they've also got a manager in Matt Bloomfield who was doing well at Wycombe at this level before they got him. It feels like of the three, Cardiff's a mess, basically. It's like you don't quite know what's going on with that club behind the scenes. And Plymouth, my word, were they god awful last year until they had, was it Muslic, who's then buggered off to go to Schalke, and all the Plymouth fans going, why is he leaving us? He was doing what's like, you're Plymouth, they're Schalke. That's why. That's the entire reason why they're Schalke. So Plymouth, again, it was basically you had one good manager who made them look competitive. Outside of that, they were dreadful at times last year. They were, lucky to have even been in a fight to stay up. So, Plymouth and Cardiff were off the table. That's why I've got Luton. Stockport, again, similar. It was one where they're a team with an upward trajectory. They're a team that, the Dave Chandler, he never finishes lower than like 6th. So like his managerial record is insane when you look at it over the over different clubs he's managed, over multiple different levels he's managed at. He's like not finished outside the top 6, and I don't know how many years at this point. And then Barnsley was literally, it's like, usually you will get one of those teams that just somehow gets themselves back into the Championship every now and again, like a Barnsley or a Rotherham. It's one of the Yorkshire teams, one of the teams from Yorkshire that somehow gets themselves back into the Championship. It's Barnsley's turn this year, I've decided. Like, no more justification why it's them over a Rotherham, but sod it, it's Barnsley's turn to be the Yorkshire team that goes up and does nothing.
Fine, I respect it. Right, let's move on to the league that 3 of the 4 of us will be paying the most attention to. That's the Championship. And, right, what have we got? I think we're kind of all in rough agreement with the relegations. Every team that's mentioned is mentioned by multiple people. I have gone for Hull, Oxford, Sheffield Wednesday. I think Hull and Sheffield Wednesday are mismanaged and will have to go down eventually. And Oxford, I think they made a mistake last season getting rid of Des Buckingham, and I think they're probably not big enough to stay in the league for any length of time. Those are the reasons for mine. Eloise, Oxford, Charlton, Sheffield Wednesday for you.
I don't know. This just feels kind of. I mean, a championship's always hard to predict. Like Wednesday is a gimme, and then it's like picking the other 2 that I feel might slip, and it's just Oxford never convincing, and Charlton I don't think they'll do much coming up. So yeah, that was my thinking. But Wednesday was a very easy pick.
Fair. Jita, you've gone for the same combination in a slightly different order of Charlton, Oxford and Wednesday.
Yeah, just kind of one of those of like looking at the table. I think Wednesday, if they don't, assuming they're able to avoid administration or, fully ceasing to exist, they're going to be in a right state, and they do very well to stay up. And then Oxford and Charlton, I kind of looked at it and I looked at the table and I was like, both of these clubs kind of feel a bit too, like, it's really tricky this year because typically you'd back one of the League One clubs to go back down, but with the clubs that have come up from League One, you're not going to really expect that Wrexham or Birmingham will go back down, so it's kind of a reshuffling a bit. So that kind of led me to kind of look at like who are some of the clubs that are on the lower end of the Championship that or maybe have overstayed a little bit too long, or clubs of a bit smaller stature, and that kind of led me to where I was with Charlton and Oxford.
Okay, and then Michael, you've done the same as me, but in a different order. You've said Oxford, Hull, Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking through it, I think there is a decent number of teams who will be down there in that relegation fight. I'm a little surprised to see this level of consistency of like 3 from 4, basically. But yeah, I think Sheffield Wednesday, I hope to God they don't go down. That is a proper good club, proper fan base. Like, Sheffield Wednesday are one of those ones where it always amazes me how many fans they bring to away games at Norwich. Like, we played them midweek like the last couple of seasons, both times at Carrow Road, and they've sold out the away end. Like, Sheffield Wednesday brings some of like the best away support in the country, if not the best. So I genuinely hope to God that situation gets sorted out, because they do, like I said, that fan base does not deserve to be having to deal with this crap that they're dealing with. So I don't want Sheffield Wednesday to go down at all. There is still part of me that thinks that they will find a way. Like, I think it was a couple of years ago, where they looked at the start of the season dead certs to go down, and then Danny Roll came in and basically somehow got them into mid-table out of nowhere. So there is always that bit of hope with them, but yeah, I think any sort of logic says that they'll do well to still be, in the league by the end of it, let alone staying up. Hull, again, that's a club that looked like they were pushing towards getting, near the playoffs under Rosenia, and then the ownership decided that not getting playoffs wasn't good enough, so sacked him, and then it all went to crap. So that club is just a mess. And Oxford, yeah, it just feels like they needed to have strengthened more than they did. They, didn't survive massively. They weren't clearly safe from relegation last year. It's a club that it felt like they needed to do more to pull themselves away. It feels like they lost the momentum they got in getting themselves to the championship when they got rid of Des Buckingham. A lot of times when you get these clubs where they look like they're overachieving relative to where they've been in recent years, it's that certain manager they've got in place that gives them the momentum to keep going up and up and improving. By changing the manager in that situation, it feels like they've sort of killed that momentum a little bit and tried to make themselves more of a sort of standard championship club, but they don't have the players to do that necessarily. So I just think they'll struggle. But like I said, there were a long list of clubs I looked at and went, they could be in trouble. Like people said, Charlton, I don't think have done. I think they've brought in some good players, but they're starting very much more on the back foot compared to the other two teams coming up. I think Preston barely stayed up last year. We could see the end of, the Preston always being in the championship thing. QPR's a bit of a weird one as well. Obviously, their managerial situation was weird with Cifuentes being put on gardening leave for a while. So QPR's always in a bit of a weird situation. I wouldn't be shocked to see them basically anywhere in the championship, really, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were down near the bottom. Stoke are always in a bit of a weird situation in recent years, though Mark Robbins is a very, very good manager. But yeah, I think Portsmouth as well are another club that aren't a million miles from being near the bottom. There are a lot of clubs that could very easily see themselves getting sucked into the bottom three, but I just feel like those three are the three weakest, or the three that should have done more than they have to either keep existing or strengthen the squad, whereas other teams are just doing that a little bit more.
Fair. So looking at promotions, Eloise and I have gone for the exact same three. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Southampton. We've all gone for them winning the league. I think for me it's a pretty no-brainer. They have the infrastructure. They still have the players. I think they are the least likely of the teams that went down last season to be phased by having to go back up. I just, the fact that we're all in agreement, I think speaks volumes. I'm going to go to Eloise to speak about Sheffield United and Leicester. Why have you chosen them as your other two teams to go up?
Okay, so Sheffield United I have come in second, which feels like it should happen because, they were good last year, probably should have won the playoffs, didn't. And they're a team that, because obviously with championship promotion nowadays, it's just teams that have been in the Premier League recently, in my opinion, because they're the ones that tend to have the better squads and tend to do better at the higher end of the championship. So that's why Sheffield United are there. And then I have Leicester winning the playoffs for that same reason. Just kind of better squads than a lot of other championship teams, and just it's just unfortunately that's the way it is now. Parachute payments and all.
Fair. Right. Unless you have anything both of you to add to the Southampton and Leicester conversations, I figure I'm best placed to ask you about your playoff winners. Jeter, how much do you actually believe Norwich are going up, and how much of this is pure copium?
Okay. Is this my Norwich soapbox?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I really rate the business that we've done in this window. And I think Manning's going to be a big step up from. I do. I think he's going to be a big step up. That being said, and I was a big fan of Hoff. Like, I thought Torup was a good manager, and I liked what he was building. But I think what I've kind of looked at is, I think a big question mark around all of this is whether Sarge stays. And some of my prediction is banking on the fact that he turned down one bid already. I'm not expecting him to stay, but this prediction was with that in mind. I think there's a very realistic world where he goes, and if he goes, you're expecting Fiskgarden to hit the ground running, and while I think he's a very good striker, it's a risk. I will say, this is a spoiler for a later prediction, I do have Norwich finishing 6th. This was them finishing 6th and going up despite sneaking into the playoffs. I'm not expecting this to be like an HMS Piss League situation where, we're up competing with teams that have actually just come down and are on parachute payments, but I do really rate a lot of the players that have been brought in. It's a real strengthening across the back line, which we desperately needed. Some midfield help is rumored to be coming in either Pelle Matson or Topic. And I think it's leaning towards Topic if Twitter was telling me anything earlier this morning. And yeah, I think that we will be a lot more stout and under better, more consistent management. And I also just want to thank all of you, because every single person in here did not pick Ipswich.
Let's move on to Michael. Michael, save your personal Norwich soapbox for a bit later. And again, unless you've got stuff you want to add on Southampton and Leicester, you've gone for Millwall making the Premier League for the first time. Why?
This was a little bit of me deciding I want to go a bit rogue. My third pick. It was a bit of like I said. There are a lot of teams I'm looking at going, they will be up there in the Championship this year. There are a lot of good teams, and Millwall are one who have been like threatening getting in the playoffs for a number of years now. It felt like, especially the back end of last year with Alex Neil, that they were building a bit of momentum. Millwall are always at their best when they're a difficult team to play against, and that's what Alex Neil is making them into. They're a team you don't want to play against. They're a team that you're a bit worried about having to actually go up against. They aren't going to try and play you off the park, but they will outwork you and outfight you. And if they can get themselves into the playoffs, Alex Neil is very good at playoffs. He's done it with Norwich. He did it with Sunderland. He finally got them back into the Championship. Like, it just feels like Alex Neil is the right manager for Millwall. He is the right man to actually get them to get results, get them, maybe just get them into the playoffs that they've just been missing out on for a few years now. And if he does that, he's got that track record of actually getting through. Like I said, this is a little bit of a me going, I don't like a lot of the other options here. Like, I'll admit my dislike of Sheffield United sort of clouded my judgment slightly, because they have admittedly got a lot of good players, but maybe don't have that, I am looking at going, I'm not 100% certain of they're going to score a boatload of goals in the way that some of the other teams might. To slightly touch on Leicester, I feel like this prediction makes me look more confident in them than I actually am. Their whole having to wait ages to change the manager thing will not have helped them. I would not be shocked if Leicester don't get off to the best of starts, but then their quality sort of shines through at the end, and they just about get into second place. But yeah, like I said, Championship, as per usual, there are a lot of teams that could go up from, admittedly, yes, Ipswich should technically be in the conversation as well, I suppose, but I'm never going to pick them. And I genuinely believe that their squad's not as good as some people seem to think it is. I will briefly say, it's not insane to think that Norwich will be up at that end of the table. I don't think it's insane to think Birmingham will be up at that end of the table. I think, Coventry are another one who you'd expect at this point to be up there as well. Watford always think they're going to be up there. There are a lot of teams that could be anywhere in near that playoffs, and I just think of all those teams, if Millwall find a way, they stand a good chance of just grinding out the results that you need in the playoffs with a manager with the right track record.
So, this is a little bit of an aside, because, it's not a prediction we're making, but I'm just curious about, with Michael specifically. for both the relegation and promotion questions, you've basically listed half the league as being possibles for each. Are there any teams that you view as like genuine, certified, absolute mid-table teams that will be definitively somewhere between like 9th and 16th?
Bristol City. Bristol City are going back to the mid-table. They had their Liam Manning was the man, basically the right man for them to get them into that position. They overachieved getting in the playoffs last year. They've still got good enough players. They're not going to be. I'd be surprised if they were in a relegation battle, but they're not good enough to compete again at the top level without the right man in charge. And that right man was Liam Manning. No. Yeah, I don't see. I think Bristol City go back there. I think Middlesbrough will be back in mid-table. There are a handful where I'd be surprised if they were got anywhere near the bottom or anywhere near the top. But it is literally just a handful.
Yeah, that was my curiosity. Right, let's move on to the Premier League now. Let's start with relegation. So I have gone for the 3 promoted teams to go back down. I think Burnley probably have the best chance, in my opinion, to stay up of the 3. Leeds, big club, huge club, but I just don't think they've quite got the financial heft right now to be able to lift themselves out of this limbo space. And Sunderland, it was pleasing to see a team that hadn't been up for a while go back up, but I think they will be immediately going back down. Interestingly, the other 3 of you all choosing the same 3 teams, but in a different order. I mean, let's run through each of the orders. Eloise, you've gone Sunderland to be 18th, Brentford 19th, Burnley bottom. Eloise, are you there?
Was I asked a question?
I mean, I suppose you weren't specifically asked a quick question, but I did tee you up to speak.
Oh, what did you want me to speak about? Sorry, internet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think your internet's going a little bit spotty. Your bottom 3, Sunderland, Brentford, Burnley. Talk me through them.
Promoted teams do bad. Brentford lost manager.
Okay, fair. Hopefully Eloise's internet will return to its full power soon. Jeeta, you have gone Brentford, Sunderland, Burnley. Why?
Yeah, I was really close to switching the order on Brentford and Sunderland. I really rate the window that Sunderland have had. I don't think it's enough, but I do really rate their window. I think that everything that I've seen on how they're going about their business, I think even if they don't stay up, they'll be one of those teams that they're using this as kind of like okay, we've got the Premier League money, let's make smart signings, let's get players in who are interested in the project. And even if we go back down, we'll be, next time we try and come up, we might be able to make it stick, which I think is what more and more teams are starting to do with the parachute payments. It's very hard to actually get yourself up and stay up at the first time of asking. On that same logic, I think that Leeds might just about do enough to stay up. I don't trust the Burnley project. And like Eloise said, I mean, Brentford have had a fire sale in terms of players, plus they've lost their manager. I think historically they've been a club that has signed really smartly, and have really established themselves as a Premier League club, despite the fact that I think many people would have probably previously associated them as a championship level club. I think they've really established themselves as a Premier League level, but I'm worried for them that heading into this season they just might not have the strength, both in their squad and with the with losing Frank.
Fair. Eloise, I will say you are starting to consistently vanish off the screen. There we go. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to sort things out.
No, you're all good. Michael, you've said 18th Brentford, 19th Burnley, 20th Sunderland.
Yeah, I probably have been a little harsh on Sunderland putting them last. It just feels like they came into the Premier League with the squad they had as clearly the weakest squad of the three coming up. Like, that was a squad that I'd say somewhat overachieved getting promoted in the first place. Sunderland needed to add a lot to it. They are doing what they can to do that, admittedly. Like, what they're doing so far is bringing in the right players. But but recent years have shown you can't just bring in a lot of players and it will work. It can work. But it just feels like Sunderland are starting from a base that's a bit too far back, where they're making these signings to catch back up to the bottom rather than to get themselves away from the bottom. Burnley, put simply, do not score enough goals. You have to have, like, for as much as, you can't just go gung-ho and stay in the Premier League, you've got to have a solid base, which they have. You can't not score any goals. They scored less league goals than Norwich last season. That's how few they scored. We finished in the bottom half of the Championship, and they scored less than us. You're going to have to start scoring some goals if you're going to actually win some games in the Premier. And when you look through their squad, they've not really done much. Like, they've got some, like, good attacking players, but they've not got, like, you actually look at goal scorers. I'm not seeing one. Like, Ashley Barnes is still on their books. They still have Ashley Barnes as a player. They've signed him and they've kept him there. That's the level of their strikers. Is Ashley Barnes is in the squad. Like, don't get me wrong, they could concede very few goals, but they're going to score like 12. So you have to score goals to stay up. And Brentford, like people said, they've lost in Burma. They're probably going to lose Wissa. They've lost Frank. The biggest problem with losing Frank isn't that he's gone. It's that they've replaced him with a man who's never been a manager before. He will be learning on the job in the Premier League. That is insane, especially when you're doing it with a squad that has lost Mbeumo. He's probably going to lose Wissa. Lost Ivan Toney as well, like, obviously a year or so ago. Like, Brentford's squad is not getting better. It's sort of, Frank did well to sort of keep them where they were after losing Toney. He is, he's done an incredible job with that squad. But now you've got a manager who is trying to figure it out on the job. As I said, he's learning on the job. You can get away with doing that in the Championship, perhaps, but the Premier League, I feel like that is a risk too far for Brentford, and they have potentially shot themselves in the foot. I could be very wrong. Keith Andrews could be a, absolute managerial super genius that we just never had the chance to see him do it before. But I would be shocked if that was the case. You don't, like I said, the Premier League is unforgiving for even very good, experienced managers, let alone someone who's never actually been in charge of a team before. So, yeah, I just feel like that managerial change is a bit of a silly move for Brentford. And obviously, it's the easy thing to do is just go with the three teams that came up going straight back down. I am backing Leeds purely because of Daniel Farke. I want that man to do well in the Premier League because genuinely, I 100% believe he did crap at Norwich because our team was crap. He had to go into the Premier League with his only permanent signing that we paid money for being Sam Byram. And he made that team at least semi-competitive for 6 months. That's working miracles. Leeds actually have money to give him. So I think they won the Championship. So last year they were the best of the three teams that come up. I think they are the best of the three teams to go, to cope with being in the Premier League. And I think Farke is in a much better position than what he's been like in the Premier League before. So as much as it feels like it might be hoping that he, does well, I do genuinely believe that he actually has the capability to keep Leeds in the Premier League.
Fair enough. Right, next we move on to what I have called other European qualifiers. Obviously with the new format it's very difficult to predict the exact number of European places and how they're going to be allocated. So basically these are the teams that we think will finish 5 through 7 in the Premier League. So as I reveal those, okay, interesting. I've gone Villa, Spurs, Newcastle. Newcastle, I'm very unsure about. I genuinely do think a big chunk of it depends on what happens with the Alexander Isak to Liverpool rumours, which is why I've put them in 7th place. Spurs, I think Thomas Frank is a very good manager, and I think Spurs will find a way to be there or thereabouts in the European places, but I don't see them challenging for Champions League first season. And then Villa, as much as it pains me to admit it, I'm not as biased in not putting rivals in places as the others are. For me, Villa under Unai Emery are a very, very good team. I hate to admit it, but they're quite good to watch as well. I think they continue pretty much every season to be in or around those spots at the moment. Eloise, you've probably got the most surprising combination, let's say. You've gone for Newcastle, Man City and Aston Villa as 5, 6 and 7. Talk me through it.
I'm not that confident with like Man City. I feel like they're going to further their struggles of last year and struggle a little bit more this year, because that team feels very like transitional to me. So I'd like to see Man City struggle. I enjoy doing that, so that's why I put them 6th. Newcastle 5th. I feel like they're pushing on, and it's very much where the team is right now. They might, I mean, this is all like depending on if they can have like an Isak replacement, because that looks like it's going to be Isak going. So that's the only worry I feel with Newcastle is how will they replace Isak. And then Villa, I think you summed it pretty well with Villa. They are a good team. I just don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year.
Fair enough. Jeeta, you've also gone for an interesting 6th spot. You've gone Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's already touched on Newcastle and Villa. I think Chelsea, for me, I wasn't sure what to do with them. They're one of those clubs, they have been for a while now, where it's like you never really know, but like they could. I think realistically the highest that they could finish is 2nd. I don't see a world where Chelsea win the title. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I could also see them finishing as low as like 12th. Like they have a stinker or two in them, and I don't know. It's one of those things of like they have a couple really good players. Palmer is, a real threat to be one of the best players in the Prem again this year. So I just kind of went. I don't feel confident putting them in the Champions League places, but I think that they're probably going to finish in Europe. So let me hedge my bets and put them here.
Okay. And then any additional comments on the other two?
Villa play really good football. I considered putting them higher. I considered putting them in the Champions League places. It's just kind of I think the league is really good. I think obviously losing Isak for Newcastle would be tough, but I have to think that they've shown really strong recruitment strategy, and I don't think that it will set them off as much as some other people maybe would do.
Okay. And then Michael, you've gone for the same 3 as me, but in a slightly different order. Villa, Newcastle, Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of it's been touched on already. Villa are the one where I'd have no problem putting them in the top 4, but it's just I feel like there are 4 better teams than Villa. I think Villa, to me, are the quite clear number 5 team going into this season. Like, they just aren't quite as good as the 4 above, but like I'd be very surprised if they finish below 5th. I think with the uncertainty around Isak at Newcastle does just hamper them a bit. Even if he does stay, he's not going to be, obviously quite as motivated. But Eddie Howe is a very good manager. He's shown that Newcastle. He's got Newcastle working when he needs to. And like Andrew said, it's even if he does go, you'd back them to bring in at least someone competent enough to replace him in an Eddie Howe team. So I just feel like Newcastle, even with the Isak situation, are still good enough to finish top 7. Spurs, feels like bringing in Frank was the type of manager Spurs kind of needed. It's, obviously won't be quite as flashy, or how I won't expect him to get like finally winning a trophy like he did under Ange, but they'll be more reliable, more consistent, more able to just get results, I think, under Frank than what they were with Ange. And I think it'll be that step back in the direction that Spurs should be. They've still got a hell of a lot of good players in that team. They showed that by winning the Europa League, that they have got a good squad there. And it just feels like that more stable manager who's shown he's more than capable of being a very good Premier League manager is what they need to get them back to where the sort of level they should be at. But it won't be so spectacular that they're all of a sudden top 4 again.
Okay. Then let's move on to our Champions League spots. And okay, interesting. Kind of points to where a couple of people's winner picks might be going. So I've gone Liverpool to Chelsea, Arsenal. I think Liverpool have undoubtedly done incredible business this summer. My suspicion is that with it being a transitional year, they might just take a little while to all gel together. But I do think they'll be in a title race. Chelsea and Arsenal, I think Chelsea are looking much better under Maresca. I think they're starting to find an identity. I do believe it's still transitional though, and I feel like they've got so many players that they might be hindered by player dramas and stuff like that. I think they need to have a bit of a garage sale and get rid of some of the ridiculous number of players they brought in. And then Arsenal, they're another team having a transitional year, and I just don't. I feel like Arsenal have almost turned into like the last 10 years of Arsene Wenger Arsenal, where it's just top 4 is the goal, and they don't really have much chance beyond that. So then we move on to Eloise's trio. You've said Arsenal, Chelsea, and Tottenham. Run me through them.
I mean, you've covered the other two, but Arsenal are forever second place at the moment, and I'm happy it stays that way. Chelsea seems like they're on the up. Now, Tottenham, a little bit biased, a little bit. So I do like Tottenham, a little bit biased. And also, I'd like to pick up on something Michael said about us not winning a trophy this year. What are you talking about? We've already won the Herbalji Trophy in the Hong Kong Football Festival against Arsenal. So I think it's technically Thomas Frank's 4th game and he's already won a trophy. Incredible.
Spurs won an actual trophy. You don't have to hang on to these claims anymore. You have an actual one.
Yes, we got the Audi Cup a few years ago. Now the Herbalji Trophy. Oh, and Europa League, but yeah. The friendly trophies are more important, as I say. But no, I do I think Tottenham will do this? Probably not. Am I being a little bit biased? Yes. Would I love to see Tottenham in Champions League spaces? Yeah. Am I still mad that Ange Postecoglou's not manager? Yep. Like I was very much one of the ones that were very mad that Ange was sacked. Like Frank is a good manager, but I do like Ange. But I mean, if Frank can translate some of what he did with a really mediocre Brentford squad, yeah, we just need a couple more class players, and then I feel like there's a chance for top 4.
I do think something that I just didn't hit on, you talking about Tottenham winning the Europa League. I have concerns that whilst I think the Champions League will maybe bring in some revenue that helps make some good signings for next season. I do fear that potentially having some very difficult midweek games at the start of the season could bring them down a little bit, because if they're not going to be particularly highly seeded, I don't think. So if they're going to get battered by the PSGs and Real Madrids of this world, I'm not sure it will help them. Gieta, you have gone for Arsenal, Man City, Man United.
Yes, I have. And basically my thinking here was that, and I'm really, excuse me, really surprised to see that I'm the only person that has United so far. I don't know if it means that people have United winning the league, or if they have United outside of Europe. I'm expecting it's the latter. But I think starting with them, because I'm the only person who's put them, I think Amorim will do a good job with them. I am expecting that they will be a good team this year, and I'm expecting that they could finish higher than fourth. I like a lot of their squad. I think Amorim's a good manager. I think last season was an anomaly, and I do genuinely think that they will have a very successful season, apparently to the surprise of everyone else here on this podcast. I think City, everyone's kind of talked about it a bit. I think that they're in a transitional period. I think that it's a bit of a weird one where it's like they're good, but they're not quite the City of old. But also they're not like this new millennium or this new era or whatever you want to call it of like also being dominant again. And I think that third is probably where they end up. I was really close to backing Arsenal to win the league. I was really, really close to backing Arsenal to win the league. And I went back on it, and I think that they're probably going to finish second. I prefer the signings of the club that I have in first. And I just, I think Arsenal will put up a very good fight. I would not be surprised if they win the league, but I think it'll be a 2-horse race between Arsenal and my winner.
Okay. Michael, you've again gone for the same teams as me, but in a slightly different order. Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea.
Yeah, I think Chelsea's been touched on a bit, but it feels like they've actually got a bit of stability in terms of keeping Maresca in charge. It feels like they've actually been improving under Maresca. It feels like they've actually got an upward trajectory, rather than like some of the previous managers. It's always been a bit of like they'll start well, then fall off, and then maybe get a bit better and fall. But Maresca, it feels like he's actually sort of building up with something there. There's a bit more of a, despite having this huge squad of players, it feels like they're actually starting to put some faith in specific ones, start to build an actual team. And some of those players are actually developing properly into being proper top level players. So it just feels like the next step for Chelsea is getting a clear top four finish. I don't think they're at the level of the three teams above them quite yet, but it does feel like they're ready to take that step from last year to having that bit of a surge towards nearly making Champions League places to now this year actually kind of doing that comfortably. Arsenal, I wanted to back them to win the league. I genuinely wanted to back them in the league. They've signed the striker they've been crying out for years, but it just feels like there's three very good teams now in at the top of the Premier League. It feels like perhaps Arsenal have signed a striker a couple of years too late. I still think it is possible they do it. I'm not 100% sold that Gyökeres is going to suddenly come in and score 40 goals. I think he's a very good striker, but he's a very good striker under specific circumstances. He's not going to make goals out of nowhere. You have to create the right sort of chances for him to score. So he could score a lot of goals. And I'd like to think that Arsenal have done the sensible thing of trying to marry up, the data of the chances they're creating with the type of striker that they're signing. But I just feel like you can't suddenly decide. Gyökeres isn't the type of striker that's going to suddenly come in and win you the league. He's not like, if someone like Haaland came into that team, then yeah, sure. But I don't quite think they're... Like I said, had they had this signing a couple years ago, I'd have been more wanting to back them. But it does just feel like, the other two teams above them, which includes Liverpool, are just better still. I think, Liverpool was my initial gut instinct to say they were going to win the league, but it's obvious to do that when they just did it last year. And for as much as it feels like, they've brought in a lot of players, so maybe they're transitioning, you'd have thought that when they brought in a new manager last year, and they went and won the damn league with the manager of the first season. So very, very easy. I wouldn't be shocked if Liverpool ran away with the league again this year. They're more than capable of doing that. But it does just feel... I feel like there's that little bit of changeover. Perhaps there's that bit more want to go for the Champions League again this year. There's a bit more of an expectation on them this year than there was last year. It felt like they did benefit a little bit, especially in the early parts of the season, of there not quite being the same level of expectation of winning the league. Now that expectation is fully back again, it might not, it's not going to be quite as straightforward for them, I don't think, as it ended up being a bit last year. And I think it is also worth mentioning the Diogo Jota situation. You can never, for as sad as that is, you can never quite tell how that's going to affect the players on a personal level, and you wouldn't blame them if it did. Either way, either positive or negative, it's a situation that, for as much as you kind of want to, ignore it happening, it is something that those lads have just lost a mate. They've lost someone suddenly out of nowhere, so you never quite know how they're going to react to that. And like I said, whatever way they react is fully understandable on a human level, and you'd hope that it's more of a, the positive side of it than the negative side of it. But again, it's such a horrendous situation that you can't rule out that that not 100% helping, because it wouldn't help anyone in any other line of work. You'd be expecting that to be a pure negative situation, so it wouldn't be fair to not believe that wouldn't have any sort of impact on those players, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very reasonable point to raise. We don't know whether it will galvanise and they will fight in his spirit, or if a lot of them are going to need to understandably take some time to get over it. I think the interesting thing with Arsenal from my perspective is there are some teams where you see where they're crying out for a good striker, where they're playing the ball as if they have a good striker and there's just no one on the end of it. Arsenal, I think, have spent so long playing with this kind of false nine shadow striker combination thing that I genuinely think they might struggle transitioning into a team that delivers a ball to a striker rather than that sort of number 10 role. But we'll see. Okay, so last but not least, let's look at our Premier League winners. I think most of you will have worked out by the omissions from the other sections. We've got 2 Man Cities and 2 Liverpools. I'll say from my perspective with City, I just think they overall have too much money and too much buying power to not be the favourites for basically every season for the foreseeable future. Does that mean I definitely think they won't have another season like last year? No, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it would be a big surprise, especially given the run they went on in the second half of the season. They looked very much being back to scary City. While we're talking about City, Michael, what's your rationale between picking them?
You can never really rule out a Pep Guardiola team. That's basically what it is. It feels like they were so poor last year that they've got a point to prove again. And it feels like my gut just tells me Pep is going to drill that team back into what it was. They've still got the quality in there. They've still, it's still a lot of the same players, but they have brought in a lot of other new players that, Man City have shown over the years. Their recruitment is very good. They will bring in the right players to play in the specific way that Pep wants them to play. He will drill those players into that system. It's Man City almost always feel inevitable, and when they've fallen off that badly, obviously it's a bit of a strange situation for Pep, considering he's not really stuck around at a team long enough to have this sort of thing happen, where he's had to almost build a new team again. But it does just feel like it's impossible to rule out a Pep Guardiola team. I think this is going to be back to one of those years where we used to have it where it's going right down towards the end of the season because you've got two teams scoring 90 odd points throughout the whole year. It's gonna. I think that top three is going to score a lot more points than they have compared to last year or previous years. It's going to be very top heavy points wise, I think. But I just feel like a Pep Man City finds a way. And I'm pretty sure Andrew is just sitting here going, are you sure you didn't mean to put Man United? Because I'm still sort of sat here thinking he's absolutely insane for putting Man United anywhere near the top of the table here, because that club is an absolute fucking mess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but we'll not fall down that rabbit hole any further. Let's move on to the two people saying that Liverpool win the league. I mean, Eloise, you're an interesting one in that you've already said you're predicting City to have a similar season as last year. So without City around, how easy do you think Liverpool are going to win the league?
The exact same way as the last year. I feel like it would just be easy. That team that Liverpool have made is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little bit good. So yeah, I feel with that improvements to the squad they've done, as well as the fact that it was piss easy the last year, I think this year it will be just as piss easy for them. It's just, if any of the clubs that are around the 2nd to 5th mark, maybe 6th, if they can step up and put a challenge to Liverpool, who knows? But at the moment, I don't see another team being able to dethrone Liverpool as it stands.
Fair. Jeter, I would argue you've gone for like a sort of more common arrangement of teams with Arsenal and City behind Liverpool. Are you expecting it to be a 3-horse race, or like Eloise, are you expecting this to be HMS piss the league for Liverpool?
Somewhere in the middle. I think Liverpool should win the league comfortably-ish. Like, I think that they'll have it wrapped up with a couple games to go. I'm not expecting this to come down to like the final match week. I also don't think that we're looking at a league that's wrapped up in March. I think that it will be close, and the question's going to be, Arsenal often have shown intent over the course of periods of a season, but I feel like it's rare to have a full season of Arsenal actually being at it. I said my part on City. I don't think City have the squad to compete at that level. I might be wrong, and I think that Michael did a good job of touching on it. I think the question mark here is how Liverpool reacts to their ongoing situation. It's really hard and sensitive. It's like the sort of thing that like you really want to be careful about, because you're talking about people's emotions, and you never know quite how that's going to play out. But I also think that the Liverpool squad are consummate professionals, and I do think that despite what is undoubtedly a serious tragedy, I think that they'll be able to handle it professionally and go on and win the league without too much trouble.
Okay, fair. Right, so as predicted, this took us a little while to get through, so we are going to split this episode in half. The miscellaneous section will be a bonus episode in a few days' time, so make sure to check that out. Bye for now.